Well, hello everybody who's going to be watching this. My name is Daniel Bennett, and we are the Morocco team. Morocco is a country in the northwesternmost part of Africa. It is a Islamic country. It's 99% Muslim and only about 1% other and like 0.2% Christian. It's very, very much a Muslim country. And we're going to be talking about how to communicate with that culture. Um, so how does Morocco and America interact? How do they view each other?
Based off of just some of the research I've done, um, like from a national level, they are friends with America and they get along and we're actually allies. Our governments work well together and but then kind of from a Christian perspective or American Christian perspective, I think it's a little bit harder to connect with them, and I think that they have a lot more they don't like American Christians as much, and they kind of view Americans as Christians in general. So like the people in Morocco, I think, are a lot more just not as friendly, but then the governments get along really well is how I would describe it.
Yeah.
So.
In some of my research, I found that they actually will even do joint trainings with the military. So I think one of the sources I was reading said that they're one of our longest standing non-NATO allies.
Yeah.
They're not huge fans of Christians.
And then the next area that we kind of were going to focus on and talk about a little bit was just their freedom of religion and what that looks like in Morocco for the people, and what they are and aren't able to believe or practice or do. So.
This was part where William had some good insights between them being free, I think you were saying, but not really free.
Out that the Constitution gives Moroccans the freedom to practice their religion of their choice, but the country has several laws that discriminate against non-Muslims. For instance, it is a criminal offense for one to possess a Christian Bible written in Arabic. I also found out that as a result of the Islamic religion in Morocco, the child's faith follows that of the father. This is to ensure that any child born with Moroccan parentage is born into Islam. The last thing that I have to talk about in this segment is it is a criminal offense to try and convert a Muslim to another religion. And I found out that those who convert to other religion risk ruining their relationship with family, friends, and the entire community.
Yeah, so if you are Muslim, then it would be illegal to convert to something else.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you came into the country as a Christian, they won't bother you as much. Like it won't be illegal to be a Christian. It's the conversion. Yeah.
Yeah, and from just kind of my research, I think you might have kind of said this, but just they have a lot of laws around kind of other religions so they say as a whole, like, oh, it's free, you can believe whatever you want, practice whatever you want, but then they have so many laws around that make it really hard to practice any religion but Muslim or Islam. And then especially if you're already Muslim and then you want to change, that's really hard to do there or be accepted there.
Yeah, so it's a free religious landscape in words. They say that it is, but in like actual practice, it's pretty restrained, especially for people who are already followers of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. And then let's see, our next section that we wanted to kind of talk about is what cultural dimensions affect interactions. So things like collectivism versus individualism, indulgence, power distance, and how do those affect the way that the culture interacts, and then also how we as Christians or just people from the outside interact with them.
Yeah, I had a lot of stuff on this. of just going through Hofstadter's, but also like just thinking through a lot of these different interactions. Morocco is a collectivist society, whereas America is very individualistic. And so just on a basic level of like making friends and trying to talk with someone and communicate with them, you can run into some issues. Whereas some of our classic tactics for making friends would be, how are you doing? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? A lot of very like individual focused questions and concerns. Whereas in this type of culture in Morocco, you have to change that and be more inquisitive about like their family, like, oh, how many, like to ask about their family, how many people they have in it, almost like kind of figure out what their status is, what accomplishments, how's your family doing, and actually trying to remember all that's going on in their family, because that's going to be much more important to them than hobbies or favorite color uh, type of things that we might use. And then that can tie in even into the indulgence aspect, because for us, like a lot of our basic decision-making processes are revolved around um, personal preference.
Preference.
Yeah, preference. Thank you. Yeah, personal preference and joy. Whereas they're a more restrained culture, and I think it ties in with the collectivism. They think a lot more about how this will affect everybody, and how much like honor or shame it'll bring upon themselves. So they're a lot more restrained in their actions and less indulgent. And then power distance. They have a higher power distance than us, so you might be thinking you're making good progress, making good friends, but they might actually just be trying to appease you if you're in a higher status than them. Or if you're in a lower status than them, they might actually be blowing you off, and you may not know it because they're trying to just, get you to go away almost.
I think Daniel said everything,
Okay,
especially.
and then
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
I really like the cultural dimensions and
Uh-huh.
how just different cultures interact in that way.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Did you want to add anything onto that?
I was waiting for him to forget the decision making so I can say that, but he already
Yeah.
said it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then, okay, so then we can move on to the next part, and that is how might one practice effective evangelism or discipleship in the Moroccan culture? And just
Yeah.
kind of our points with that were building relationships and friendships, listening well, and then addressing the head of the household.
Mhm.
So, I was gonna say I did most just based off of like my research and stuff, and just kind of looking at how the culture functions, how they react to Christianity. I put down that I just felt like it was important to be able to listen to them and also maybe do it in a more private setting and not be kind of in public and just trying to evangelize or talking to people about your faith or that kind of a thing, where I think that's more common in America. And I think there it's important to keep things more private because they do kind of suppress Christianity, and keeping it private allows the person you're ministering to not to feel shamed or worried about, what they're talking about with you. So that, and then also just being respectful of how the family functions and how to interact with the different families or the group that you're working with, and being respectful of the people that are in leadership or in charge. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Now, there was something you said that was with the how the family functions is, yeah, that collectivism and power distance. The head of the household has a lot of sway. So especially when trying to engage in evangelism and discipleship, if you can really get in well and good relationship with the head of a household, and possibly convert them to Christianity, then the entire household is a lot more likely to actually convert with them, which can be actually really a really big bonus in the culture, since it's so family focused, that if they all get excommunicated, persecuted, punished, they're still a family unit. They haven't been completely cut off from their in-groups. And even then, you can like
Yes.
offer some stability as being part of their in-group, inviting them into a body, a church body, just really stressing family relationships can help a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of ties into our final, just kind of ending focus of this discussion, which was just the rituals of crisis, intensification, and transition, and just having a ritual of crisis and a ritual of transition prepared, and then working, we said kind of working with the head of the household for those and setting up intensification rituals with them. So I don't know if you guys want to expand on that a little bit. That was kind of our ending, like where you would want to go when, or how you would want to, I guess, disciple or evangelize.
Yeah, rituals of crisis are definitely going to be needed, because of the persecution that comes if someone converts from Islam to Christianity. You'll have to have, and it'll be different for each person in each family. Um, you'll need to have some, you got to be prepared for that to happen. And even the fact that persecution will come can be part of that ritual of just knowing that this is going to be different.
I also think that the ritual of intensification, I mean, like if I can explain that in a nutshell, is that the things like discipleship and Bible study can be a key factor, because once you start sharing the gospel, you want to make them continue receiving the word so that they can stick. So I believe that the ritual of intensification can also play a key factor here. And maybe probably the ritual of transition, whereby you have to help them identify where they are and be able to, like shed lights to be able to, this is how it's supposed to live a Christian life, so that they can be able to separate and then grow, and rather be doing the same practice they've been doing since, I don't know, when they were born.
Yeah, especially if they've grown up in that, like you said, being born in it. Having something to be a solid transition, and that could be baptism, that could be a physical moving to get out of danger or harm's way, that could be that joining of a church body. There's a couple different rituals of transition that can definitely help.
Mm-hmm. So if anyone feels like they want to do evangelism, I believe that Morocco is one of the countries that requires evangelism. According to the Joshua Project, I think this is a country that requires a lot of people to do evangelism and stuff.
Yeah, there's a very, very small amount of Christians there. And as I was looking actually on Joshua Project as well, that 0.1% of the population that's Christian, it's like 70% of that is actually Catholic. And Protestants only make up like a 0.2%. So that's actually something that could actually be a cool opportunity in evangelism. There is having to work with those other types of Christianity per se, which can be sort of be up to the individual, but it could actually be a good way to bolster the church as a whole, because you'll do better if you work with people already established there, even if they're not in your particular denomination. And that's something that you could actually show to the people you're evangelizing to, that, hey, we actually have some different beliefs, but we're still working together because we believe the gospel is important.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for sharing that for the kind of our closing thing. And I think that's all we have for whoever's watching. But hopefully that gave you some ideas and just, yeah, gave you some helpful insight if you are interested in evangelizing or doing any work in that country. So
And we'll be trying to answer your questions in the comments.
yes. All right.
We say bye.
Yeah, farewell.
Yeah.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
Okay.
Yeah.